Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 61. Thank you for joining us for Black Entrepreneur Experience. This is where we shine the light on the most successful Black entrepreneurs in the world. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards, and I am so honored today to have with us Jaynee Sasso. She is an inspirational and keynote speaker, entrepreneur, author, and transitional coach, helping people to navigate and thrive in a complex and uncertain environment during seasons of major change and transition. Welcome, Jaynee.
Thank you for having me.
You know what? I'm sure you must be really, really busy with being a coach, a speaker, an author. Why don't you share with our audience what you'd like them to know? Fill in the gaps. What would you like them to know about your company and yourself?
Sure. Well, I am an entrepreneur and former homeschool mom. I have two tween and teenage children, and been married for about 16, 17 years now. And I just love to just help people and to watch them grow and to flourish. And I also work in the healthcare space with seniors. I love working with seniors, and I have been a family caregiver for over 15 plus years, and that's all of my young adult life. So I am very passionate about advocating for our seniors, and that is some of the charity work that I do. So hopefully that kind of fills in the gap on who I am as a person. But my company, which I must say I have more than one company because I am an entrepreneur. Senior Runs is my latest baby that I'm launching within the next month or so. I also have obviously my coaching and consulting. I'm working on a handmade cosmetic line, which we kind of did a soft launch last year. And I do speaking, and I love to inspire and motivate people to be and do their best. So hopefully that kind of fills in everything.
It's about, what is the Senior Run? What is that's your new baby that you're launching?
Well, in 2013, I launched a corporation called Carekeepers. And when I initially started, it was designed to support family caregivers, those caring for loved ones, whether, it's their parents or their spouse or their children that may be suffering from a long-term terminal or chronic disease or illness. And if anybody knows anything about being a caregiver, it's to me, it is the toughest job in the world. And I had a wonderful opportunity to serve many friends and family. And so Senior Runs is kind of the pivot point of Carekeepers, as I realized working with seniors and their families in my local community, that transportation is a huge challenge for our seniors because they cannot remain as socially active. And, if you're depending on people to take you here and there, it's kind of hard. And so our communities just need to have a better infrastructure in place to be able to support our seniors so that they can prevent isolation and be able to allow our seniors to do the things that they enjoy doing without incurring some of the risk if they should choose to drive and not really be physically or mentally capable of doing that. So Senior Runs is all about reversing the impact of driver cessation for seniors. And it is, some people describe it as an Uber for seniors, but really what it is a companionship service with a focus on transportation. And so our what we call our companion drivers work with our seniors and allow them to, go around town and run their errands and just enjoy life as we all want to do.
So because you do have, Jaynee, several streams of income, and I don't know in this interview if you want to talk about anything specific, but let's say, for instance, throughout the interview, just so we can keep things straight for the audience, if you're talking about a specific, one of your specific businesses, then feel free to let us know which one it is. If throughout the
Okay.
interview you want to stick to one specific one, then you can do that also, whatever. But just so the audience know, because you did say you have multiple streams of income, which
Yes.
is where
Yes.
we need to be, what you should do in terms of classifying as an entrepreneur. And this is just for the audience. That is what everyone teach, and individuals that are extremely successful, it is about multiple streams of income. So thanks for that.
Yes.
So Jaynee, how did you decide your business? How did you decide this was that aha moment for you? And because you have multiple ones, if you want to talk about one specifically, what was that aha moment that you knew this was going to be successful?
Sure. Well, I'll focus on my carekeepers, which is now senior runs. But carekeepers was birthed from my own experience as a caregiver, and I had been a caregiver since I was probably 20 years old. I had to leave college in my sophomore year to come home and care for my terminally ill grandmother, and so I had to forfeit my education at that time, and I had to find a way to make it in the world, because obviously that traditional path of going to school, getting a degree and getting a good job or whatever wasn't going to be my path, wasn't going to be a part of my story. And so caregiving, like I said earlier, was one of the greatest challenges of my life, but it was also a great blessing in that I was able to experience the pain points of my target market for carekeepers. And so carekeepers was birthed from my own experience of how do I balance my personal and professional goals with my caregiving responsibilities. If you are a caregiver and you're working and you're a driven person like myself and you have big dreams and hopes, there's going to be some conflict there, because caregiving in and of itself is a full-time job. And so it's hard enough to work full time and have a business. But then when you add caregiving on top of that and having children and getting married and all those sort of things, I had to figure out what I could do to help me to balance. And so I was the person that was willing to find someone to help me to be able to balance all of that. And so I gladly paid someone to do a lot of the chores and the tasks that I really did not need to do on a regular basis. And so Carekeeper was birthed out of that, in the sense that I wanted to provide the same level of support that I received during my own caregiving journey. And so where traditional home care and home health was focused on patients, they've often neglected the impact on the family, the caregiver. And so I wanted to create something that would really be caregiver focused and help caregivers to do the best job that they could do. And because caregivers are the backbone of our healthcare system, I wanted to create something. And so I knew it would be successful because I understand that there was a gap in the type of services that are available to families as they're going through this journey of caring. And, anytime you can figure out a way to solve a problem or to fill a gap in an industry, you're on to something. So, and with pivoting to senior runs, it's just kind of a continued extension. I just kind of switched up the model to really focus on that transportation, because as a caregiver, you're driving people here and there. And so, again, I'm still filling a need that there's a large gap as far as it relates to seniors. So that's kind of how I just kind of knew that would be something, a good niche to get into.
And absolutely, I think that is a very well needed business, especially as we're having this the boomers are aging. So I think that's a brilliant idea. Jaynee, how would you define success?
Well, for me, success is not about what you have, but it's about what you've been able to overcome. Because From personal experience, I have had to endure a grueling journey of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs today are like the rock stars. And so, we celebrate Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerbergs, and all the other great ones out there. But what we don't see is the story behind the glory, as I say. So, if you're not able to, have that spirit of perseverance and tenacity, you're not going to last long in being an entrepreneur. So, it hasn't been the money. It hasn't been any other thing that has allowed me to last this long. It really has been my ability to overcome. So anytime I can overcome an obstacle or a boundary, which as an entrepreneur, that is your life every day. You are waking up to more problems and having to figure out, what you can do to solve problems. There's people telling you, no, that's not going to work. People don't believe in you. And, you just have to be able to really be able to push past all of that. And if you can't do that, you can have all the money in the world and your business can make all the money, but you're always going to have problems and challenges that you need to overcome. So you really, in order to be successful, you've really got to be in a position where you can overcome all types of obstacles. So the more I overcome, that's the way I measure my success.
So talk to our audience and tell them 3 tips that you would recommend for someone that's trying to overcome something in life that has been very traumatic for them. What advice would you give them?
You got to maintain a balanced perspective, and I call it my bowler analysis, because every experience, whether, if you lose your job or if you lose your business, which I have, if you lose your money, which I have, you lose your home, whatever, I've probably lost all of those things. You have to keep and maintain a balanced perspective, because there are benefits, there are limitations, and risk to everything. So our tendency as, with human psychology is we like to magnify all the things that are wrong about a situation. But what I have learned is that we have to leverage those opportunities, what we see as obstacles. And so once I realized that, life doesn't travel in a straight line. You always have a seed in your hand. So no, you're never out of options. We might think we're out of options, but we're really not. What it is that we may have to go a path or do some things that we're uncomfortable, or it takes us outside of our comfort zone. But it nevertheless is still an option. And every level of success you achieve is based on the quality of the questions you ask. So rather than asking, why me, ask, what can I do differently? What can I do to shift this thing? How can I take advantage of this kind of unfavorable situation that I'm faced? So just maintaining a balanced perspective and really, keeping your focus on your ultimate goal. So that's what I would encourage someone to do to get past certain obstacles.
So, Jaynee, what is one daily or weekly habit that you do consistently that has given you the greatest success?
Every day, I write. Well, once a week, I write down what I intend to achieve that week on a daily basis. And so every day when I wake up, I look at my list of things that I need to get done in order to produce a particular result at the end of the week. And what I find is that a lot of people just kind of wake up, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have some type of structure because you are in charge of your time, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. And that can be both a blessing and a curse. So you have to have some type of rudimentary system to keep you on track. And so I find that planning out my week on a daily basis helps me to stay focused. And if you can remain focused, then you will accomplish the things that need to be done in order to reach the overarching goal.
And so what is one valuable lesson that you wish you knew before starting your business?
Wow. Let's see. I would say that the importance of mentorship and not forgetting that you're human and you are in this to make mistakes and to learn from them. When we go through school, we're taught our entire academic life that it's wrong to make a mistake and that there's only one answer to anything. And for me, I really had to shift my thinking in that aspect to realize that entrepreneurship is a journey of failures and mistakes, and your success is going to come by your ability to learn from the mistakes, not to run from your failures, not to make everything perfect, but to really challenge yourself. And so in the beginning, I was trying to really walk kind of this tightrope and could only see things working a certain way. And over time, I learned that, you know what, it doesn't work out that way. Part of the journey and the excitement is that you try new things and you open up your mind and your heart to seeing life and the world in a different way.
So you talked about failures and mistakes. Talk to us about that worst moment in business. What was that?
Wasn't so long ago, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I had another business and lost that business. It was at the height of the Great Recession, and I had some wonderful investors that were investing in me, and then at the last minute, when everything was going kind of quacky with the economy, they pulled out and they bailed on me, and I wasn't in a position where I could really afford to take on that load by myself, being a new startup. And so as a consequence, I lost everything, house, cars, money, and it eventually left me and my family to have to survive off of just $5,300 a year. But what I learned from that was that growth demands the shedding of the old to make way for the new. And that, I had big goals and big dreams, and that as soon as you open your mouth and confess what you want out of life, life is going to immediately challenge you. And that is simply to help you to prepare to handle the weight of the future that you're asking for. So often we look at our obstacles and challenges like that particular situation as the death of, it's the end of us. It's the end of the world. But it's not the end of the world. It was actually the catalyst that I needed to, one, learn how to choose an investor, how to choose partners that won't bail on you, people that you can trust. When you first start out, you're so desperate for someone to believe in you, you'll partner with just about anyone because you're just glad that somebody's going to strike a check. But it's a lot more than that when it comes to a business relationship, obviously. But that was one of the big takeaways, was choose your partners wisely. You can't just partner with everyone. You've got to be able to trust that person with your life. And sometimes even if somebody can write the check, it doesn't mean that they're the best partner or best fit for where you're going.
Who are the top 2 influencers in your life, and what lessons did they teach you?
Well, I would have to say my dad, who he passed away in 2008. He was someone that I cared for on a full-time basis during that time of my life. And entrepreneurship was something that our family really embraced and encouraged. And so my dad always told me that life in and of itself is risky. And so no matter whether you work for yourself or you work for someone else, it's all risky. And so often we try to choose the less riskier path because we want security. But he always encouraged me, if you're going to struggle and you're going to take risks, you might as well do it for yourself and have the power to create the life that you want. And the second person would be my husband. His ability to survive any storm. He's a military guy, and so his whole mindset is, how do you survive when life knocks you down? And so it's because of his strength that I've been able to grow in my spirit of perseverance and resilience, because I see how he's been able to walk with me through all of these different storms. And he always talks about perspective. He says that the battle it begins in the mind first. And so those two men are my great influencers, because they have been with me through thick and thin and have just we've walked with each other for so long to be able to teach me so many things.
So when you hit a bump in the road, Jaynee, how do you reset and recover? Because you sound like, from your experience, you've had several bumps in the road, but you have this amazing resolve and outlook in life. So talk to someone in the audience that they may have hit a bump in the road right now, and how do they recover and persevere?
I always tell people you have to go back to your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you walking out this journey? And I know people talk about your why, but I even have learned to take it to the next step. Is your why even big enough? If it were just if my journey of entrepreneurship were just about me as an individual, I would have given up a long time ago. I would have given up that first bump, because for me to just make money and have a successful business so I could, live nicely or comfortably, that's not enough for me to get up in the morning and pull myself out of bed, only have $5,300 a year coming in, and I'm trying to wake up to feed my family. That's not enough. But when I put my family into the equation and I talk about legacy, then I get inspired. Then I'm like, I'm doing this not for me. I'm doing this for those that are coming behind me. So, and me being a caregiver has really made me to understand the importance, the sanctity and brevity of life, and just how valuable it is. So whatever I can do for another human being, that is what inspires me. So I would encourage that person to think about your why. Why should you pull yourself up and keep moving? What is it about what you're doing? How meaningful is your work? And so the work that I do is not about how much money I can make. That is just a byproduct. The work and the investment of my time and my energy and my efforts is about me being of value to another human being. And those individuals are depending on you. And you got to just find what is your ultimate motivation. And you got to be, you have to be open and transparent with your circle. Do you have mentors? Who can you turn to and talk to and share? Sometimes we don't like to appear like we are failures, or that we don't know something, or that we made a mistake. But what I've learned as an entrepreneur is you've really got to be transparent. When I lost everything, I had to go out and find a job. And I took a job in a field that kind of was, I was forced to learn because at the time I didn't know about how to read financial statements. I didn't know what the business, what they call the language of business, when I was talking to investors to kind of feel them out. I didn't have that. And so I decided to challenge myself. Well, Jaynee, you were ignorant in that area. How about let's take a job, and have to admit that I failed at that point. And I had to go back to work. But I took a job so I could learn and that I could grow and develop it in an area that I was weak. So never be ashamed to admit that you don't know something. Pride is a very dangerous thing when you're an entrepreneur, because all the successful entrepreneurs are those that surround themselves with people that know more than them. So surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, and re-examine your why so that you can have the right motivation for when you hit those bumps in the road.
So when you had talked about when you had lost the job and you had to go back to work, were you very strategic about this position? I know you said that the areas of finance, it was not an area that was strong. Were you very strategic, or did you just get a job and say, I'm just getting a job for survival to bridge the job gap? Or were you very, very strategic in, this is the area that there's an opportunity and I'm going to go into that field? So tell us about that.
Yes, I was very strategic. I knew what my weaknesses were in that last venture. And so I wanted a job to put myself purposely in a very uncomfortable situation. And as entrepreneurs, in order for you to grow, you have to be willing to be in some very uncomfortable situations. You have to put yourself in situations where you're forced to grow. So no, I didn't want to take a job that I knew I could do really easily and didn't have to think about it. No, I wanted a job that would cause me and force me to examine the areas where I was weak. And so I was very strategic. It was a management accounting job. So, and I knew nothing about accounting, but I got in there and I actually taught myself the accounting system, which in the nonprofit world, it was had a very hard learning curve on that particular system as I started to talk with people, different ones in the industry and the nonprofit world. And so I was very strategic. I wanted to be better in that particular area because I did not want that to stop me again when I would be faced with some different challenges. So yeah, be strategic. Don't just and I know everybody's situation is different. Sometimes you have to take things just to survive, but I was fortunate that I had an opportunity to get into the very field where I needed to grow and to develop.
You talked about legacy before, and that's one of the things that we at Black Entrepreneur Experience do. We want to leave a legacy, and we want to shine the light on, and we do shine the light on the most successful Black entrepreneurs in the world. So what can we do? What role and responsibility can you do, or are you doing right now, Jaynee, to increase the number of Black entrepreneurs?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'm doing is I'm training my children. So if you have children, and my nieces and my nephews, I start within my own home. And I train them on how to think like entrepreneurs, how to go out into the world and make your own way. And I'll just give you a quick example. It works. My children, my son is 15, my daughter is 12. They know how to go out and make flyers and business cards, and they have made anywhere between $200 or $500 on a weekend because there's something that they wanted to purchase or there's something that they wanted to save towards, and they know how to go and talk to people. They ring, they go door to door. I mean, just to see my legacy already growing is such fuel for the fire that I already have. So start within your own home. If you don't have children, start within your community. There's children all around you. There's teenagers all around you that are trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, what jobs they want to do. And so I think a big part of it is letting people know that you don't have to go out and get a traditional job. You don't have to go out and do the traditional thing. You can create your own way, but you just have to be willing to invest the time, the energy, and the effort to bring about that manifestation in your life. So go into your community. My husband works at the Boys and Girls Club, so we get to talk to young people all the time. We get to lead by example. You know, my kids, my people in my neighborhood, they're looking at me to see how I respond to different situations and challenges that I have along the way. So start with the people that are already close to you, and encourage them and talk to them. Be transparent. You know, I'm very transparent about my failures and my great losses and how it's impacted my family and that sort of thing. And I use that as my platform to show people that it's possible to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and move forward and really be successful as you go forward. So just start within your own home and in your community.
So Jaynee, talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger Jaynee?
Wow. I would say not to worry so much about how much money I was making, but instead make as many mistakes as I can and learn from those mistakes as much as I can. When I was younger, it was, completely all about me. I like to live a lifestyle of luxury. I am not, I'm frugal, but I enjoy nice things. I like to eat nice meals and that sort of thing. But when I was younger, it was all about, okay, I'm going to do this business so I can make so much money, so I can, create this lifestyle. But what I didn't do was when I made mistakes, I didn't sit back and analyze my mistakes so that I could learn as much as I could from them. So I could have probably saved myself a lot of heartache and trouble had I been more focused on the learning part of the journey and less about how much money I was going to make or not going to make.
How do you marry, blend, balance your personal life, family life with your business?
It's very difficult, very, very difficult. I think I'm figuring it out every day. Every day I wake, fool around with it and try to make it all work together. But I think I kind of, the biggest part is one, when you decide to be an entrepreneur, you need to have a discussion with your family about what that means and how it's going to impact you, how it's going to impact them. And even before I got married, my husband knew I was a very driven person. He knew I had big goals and big dreams. We came to an agreement that this was the lifestyle I was going to choose, and there was impact on what I could. I would be able to provide my family, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally. And so we had to come together as a family and just kind of support each other. My children are very independent because they have to be, because I just can't do and be everything for them. But not that that's necessarily the best thing for children, that you need to be there and do everything for them. So homeschooling was a big part of our decision to kind of bring us closer. So you have to know what your values are, and you have to know what your goals are as from a family perspective. What is the expectation? Talk about what you can actually do versus what you would be your ideal. Don't try to live up to unrealistic expectations. So am I going to be home for dinner and cook a meal every night? No, that's not realistic for the type of work that I do. My family understands that. We've all made a decision that we're all going to have to pitch in and help, because at the end of the day, the work that I'm doing is not just for me. It is for the betterment of my family. And so once we have that core focus, then everybody gets on board and everybody starts to work towards that ultimate goal.
Jaynee, is there a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have for you in managing your business day to day?
Yes, I would say your social media, definitely a good place to start in building relationships online and building your presence. I'm from the time of, beepers, payphones, Rolodex, those were our tools when I first started out. So embracing the technological age has been quite challenging for me. But more importantly than just the social media platforms, the fact that your mail list, like a MailChimp. I love MailChimp, and my list is like the holy grail of my business, because building relationship with your customer base and your audience is huge, especially when there is so much noise in the internet world. How are you going to make sure that your message is being heard by those who value what you have to say, and that it doesn't get lost? Social media is great for that, but your mailing list, email list is vital for that, because that's the way that you get to communicate with your specific audience and target for your business. And I have found that to be one of the greatest tools that I didn't have 20 years ago when I started.
So how did you build your emails list? Did you do a course? Did you organically build it? How did you learn this process of building your list? Can you share with the audience?
Oh, sure. I take classes all the time. Education is an ongoing process for me, especially when it comes to technology. I just heard about these bots, and I'm going to have to sit down and figure out what bots are and how that can help my business. But yes, taking classes, and there's a lot of free little webinars and things that are online that you can go and you can take. Just learn as much as you can. Reading is also a great way to better learn. How I created the list in of itself is I personally use like Facebook ads, for example, to go and advertise online. And let me just say this, marketing is huge. And there's a difference between selling and marketing. And that was something that I did not understand very well in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. I thought as long as I created a nice brochure and a business card that, voila, people are just going to read that, I'm going to get the sale. But the reality is that simply helped with my brand awareness. And so when you're doing ads and things, that's helping with your brand awareness. And that is different from sales, which is actually getting someone to exchange money for your product or service. So in this era, brand awareness is very much of a challenge, because there's so much noise out there that you really have to focus on how to get your brand out there. And so using social media, live streaming, I message people online. If I'm going online on my social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter, I communicate with people just like I did when I first started. I think a lot of people think you can just post, and people are just going to automatically respond. No, you actually still have to do a lot of relationship building online. So message people. If you're somebody interesting that you want to meet, or somebody says something or tweets something that relates to your product or service, don't be hesitant to respond, and then tell them what you do and invite them to join your mailing list, for to keep updated with you. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of get that ball rolling, and position yourself to have a very high quality list.
Tell us about what book would you recommend and why?
Well, my favorite book, and one of the very first books I ever read at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And the reason why that book I would recommend it is because it really shifts how you think about your responsibility about creating your future. If you're like me, you went to school, and I did very well in school. I went to a prestigious boarding school. I got scholarships, and I did all of that. And sometimes you feel like that's where it all ends, where your education ends, where your identity is found. And what Rich Dad, Poor Dad really shows you is that at the end of the day, you're capable of more than what you can imagine. And you have to really believe that as an entrepreneur in order to get through those rough patches, which nobody is immune to. If you're in entrepreneurship, you're going to hit those rough patches. So that book really helps to prepare your mind to be open to seeing life in a different way, and from a more of an entrepreneurial mindset than what you may have traditionally been trained on how to think.
What milestones do you expect to accomplish for your business or your brand over the next couple of years?
Well, I'm going to talk about senior runs for this question. My goal is really to be able to generate a revenue of over $1 million within the next couple of years, and to create thousands of jobs for some Virginians here in my state. And so I expect to do that hopefully over the next 2 to 3 year period. And once I can get that kind of successfully under my belt, then I look forward to kind of expanding our services and making them available to across the nation and other states.
So will you do that in terms of a franchise?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a franchise. It would just be like a Uber, where their platform is just opened up to different zip codes and areas. And eventually, I'm sure I would be approached by a Uber or a Lyft at some point to actually probably buy my business. And at that time, I would evaluate if I've got the company to where I wanted it to be at that point, if it was ready to be sold off. So we'll see how it goes, and if I'm able to kind of do it as quickly as I would like and hope to.
So, Jaynee, what is your biggest accomplishment so far with your business?
Just creating and being an innovative force in the healthcare space, especially when it comes to seniors. There's so much room for innovation in healthcare. There's just not enough people that are really kind of focusing in on how to make a difference in the lives of our seniors. Again, I'm a big advocate for seniors. I'm actually the chairperson for the Peninsula Task Force on Aging here in what we call the Tidewater area of Virginia. And so I'm just proud to be able to have, even coming from New Jersey and moving to Virginia, where I didn't know anybody and didn't have anything, to be able to get to a position where now I can actually influence public officials and legislative boards, and just, go to the Virginia General Assembly and talk about the issues that are impacting my target audience. So now it's not even just about making money. Now it's really even just, advocating and fighting for those that don't have a voice for themselves. So I'm just excited about what my entrepreneurial journey has allowed me to, the responsibility that I've taken on, and being able to be a voice and an advocate for those that I was serving as an entrepreneur, but now in an even greater capacity.
If you conducted this interview, Jaynee, what is the one question that you wish I would have asked you, and I'd like you to answer that question?
I would ask, what is it that you would want to do in your future that is going to go beyond your business ideas and ventures? What is your ultimate vision for where you want your life to go? What you will find is that so often entrepreneurs, they start out kind of self-centered, and then as they grow and develop, their vision about the world and their impact on the world grows and changes. So I would want to ask myself, expand your why. How are you going to expand your why? What is it that ultimately you want to see happen in your life, and how do you want that to impact those around you? I believe that I'm at the point now where I've been able to do that, start to really expand my why to where it's now starting to really have a greater impact than what I even imagined when I was younger. So,
Jaynee, what is one parting piece of advice you want to offer our audience?
Make personal development and education a top priority. I like to say always be learning. Never get to a place where you feel you know it all. I hate to be in a room where everybody's pulling on me for information, because I like to learn, and I like to be in a room with people that are smarter than me so that I can grow and develop. So don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone and surround yourself with smart people. Don't be intimidated by that, because your personal development and your education is dependent upon that.
Thank you for that. Now, Jaynee, we've come to the part of our interview where we call it Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to answer very quickly. If there's something that you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, I am.
The last movie you saw?
Trolls with my daughter.
You relaxed doing what?
Sitting in silence and listening to the waves crash.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
My jazz vocalist, Diane Reeves.
Your favorite dance song?
Right now, it's Bruno Mars, 24 Karat Magic.
And what food you eat every week, no matter what?
I love veggies, so a variety of veggies.
And your favorite month?
June, because it is the kickoff of my favorite season, summer.
Very good. We want to thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience. But before we conclude, we would like you to tell our audience what is the best way for them to connect with you and to support your business.
Yes, you can visit me on my website and contact me through my website at JayneeSasso.com. And then I am on Facebook. You can friend me. I have no problem accepting friend requests. And you can also go on my business page, Brazant Coaching and Consulting. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jaynee Sasso.
Jaynee, we appreciate you on Black Entrepreneur Experience. If there's anything that we can do to support your business or elevate your mission, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And that is a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.